Hello! In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to manage this neat trick of switching between full camera view and a view of your slides or anything else you want to show using a package called OBS. If you're used to things like Zoom or PowerPoint or video editing software, note that OBS isn't an alternative to these things. It's something you can use alongside them to give you more control over the display. Also the audio, but mainly the display. The name OBS stands for Open Broadcaster Software. It's a piece of free open source software. This means, among other things, that there's no cost to install it or to use it. And if you're unsure why exactly people are giving away perfectly good software, have a look at the excellent book by Christopher Kelty, which is available as a free download, as you'd expect and hope. OBS wasn't originally designed for what I'll be showing you. Its main use has always been managing live streaming. Streaming just means any constant flow of data, for instance a video channel, and live streaming is when people transmit video as it happens. It's particularly popular with the video games live stream community, who often use a platform called Twitch. All you really need to know about that is that it's a big community which is very good at getting its technical needs met, and OBS is a very nice piece of software indeed, which can now do a bunch of other stuff, including managing recordings, which is what I'll be showing you. So you'll need to install it from the website. There are versions for all the major systems. I only speak Windows, I'm afraid, so that's what we'll be using. Click to download and you should get the installer straight away. And once you've got it installed, it should look something like this. Some principles that you need to know. OBS is designed around the concept of different scenes. So in the example I just gave you, my head full face was one scene and my head in the corner with the slider's main view is a different scene. And each scene is made up of different sources layered on top of each other. Sources can be video, they can be images, they can be webcam input and various other things, as we will see. So just to talk you through the process, so we've got a default scene here, just called scene because it's the only one, and we are going to put some sources into it. And as you can see, there are helpfully some directions here. So click the plus button below and it gives me all these different options for kinds of source that I can put into my scene. So just to show you the principle, I'm going to pick out an image. Okay, so this is going to be a still image. And I've got a rather charming image of one of the bees from the mosaic on the floor of Manchester Town Hall, currently inaccessible because of renovation and global pandemic. Okay, so I'm going to give it a helpful name, the name B. Now it's asking me to give it an image file. So I've got all of these on the desktop. Here it is, b.jpg. And if I do that, then we can see that it's brought the image of the bee onto my scene. It's fairly intuitive. You can pick the image up and drag it around using the mouse. You can also, so it's coming slightly too big, but if I drag the corners like that, I can shrink it and you can, it doesn't actually let you stretch it by default. You can make it stretch it, but that's usually not a good idea because things end up looking wonky. What you can also do, if you hold down the Alt key, this is sometimes a bit fiddly, but hold down the Alt key and pick up one of the handles like that, you can actually crop. The cropping edge turns from red to green. Okay, so I can take in a bit less of the bee like that, and I'll just crop it down on that side as well. So we've got, I'll just expand that out to fill part of the screen. So that's one layer. I'm going to add another one. Okay, this is the actually the simplest thing of all that you can do here is the color source type. So that is just a block of solid color. So what color shall we have? Let's pick a really exciting color, beige, and it's now it's asking me to select the color that I want. So if I pick a nice, yeah, Yeah, nice, really sort of shocking beige colour there. Yes. Okay, right, now it's brought that in as being the size of the entire window. So where has the B gone? The B is now behind the beige. So it's listing them in order from front to back. And the nice thing is here you can very easily, you can move them around. So if I pulled the beige down like that, it's now behind the B. And just as you can with images, you can resize and reshape these color blocks. You can do that with, I think, all of the different content types that you can bring in as sources. So that's the beige in front of the B, that's the B in front of the beige. And all of these things you can apply various filters. I won't get too far into this because it gets complicated, but you can open up the filters window, and again you have to press plus and give it a filter. You can do things like, for instance, color correction. So everything has to have a name. Right? Excitingly, if the beige is too exciting, you can tone it down a bit like that, or you can build it up. What do you get if you increase the saturation on beige? Answer is yellow. You can fiddle about with the brightness and the contrast and so forth. I should let's get rid of that actually, because that's stupid. But that principle goes for all of these things. So let's put a filter on the B. Okay, so we're going to color correct the B, and the opacity option is actually probably the most useful. So if I do that, you can see that the B is now semi-transparent. Now there's a whole load of different source types. You can include video. If you want to add a video, go to media source, and I've got a video of a fish tank for some reason, which I will add here. So you can specify that you want it going on a continual loop. So that fish tank video is now, that will just sit there, and that will play forever if we let it. Which actually I'm not going to, because it's completely irrelevant to our example. You can, of course, you can delete these things, but before I do that, I just want to show you this. Each of these sources has two little images here. You've got an eye and a padlock. Now, the eye is a quick and convenient way of controlling whether you can see this thing in the setup. So if I press the eye, the fish tank has now disappeared. It's still there. I can turn it back on, and I can move it around as before, pull it down there, for instance. The same is true for everything else. So I'm just going to turn the B off. You can see the fish tank in all its glory there. Turn the beige off and turn it back on again. And the padlock, what the padlock does is it holds the thing in place, locks it down. So if I padlock the B and the fish tank, if I try to pick up the B, I can't. If I try to pick up the fish tank, similarly, if I try to pick up the beige, that's not locked down, and so I can move it around. That is really, really handy when you've got a bunch of stuff in there and you're trying to work on one thing and you're trying to get that thing to the right place. I tend to just keep everything locked down all the time except the stuff I'm working on. Okay, so let's, you can of course remove anything that you've put in like that. So I'm going to take the fish tank out of the picture, and I'm going to bring in something more relevant, which is my webcam input showing my less than beautiful face. Webcams are in the category it calls video capture devices. So let's try to add one of those. Okay. And I just want to show you something here. This is something to be aware of. The way webcams work, certainly in Windows, only one program, one piece of software can use any one webcam at any time, which means that the first piece of software that gets to it grabs it and won't let it go. So if you've got anything else that's using the webcam, if for instance you are on a Zoom call, and for the purposes of this demonstration, it so happens that I am on a Zoom call here, it won't be able to connect. It will try, but you will just get this irritating grey space here. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to end the Zoom call. And cancel that. And now when I try again, it's working fine. And of course, if I now try to start a Zoom call, it won't work. You can't see this, but way up in the corner, I've got a little angry triangle with an exclamation mark on it saying, cannot start video. Okay, so everything's okay, except that if you are sharp-eyed, you may have noticed that the shot here is not as wide as it was before. Now that is, I don't know why this is, and I don't know whether it's particular to my model of webcam, which is a fairly common one. By default, it opens it at the wrong aspect, the wrong resolution. So what you need to do, if you have one of these webcams, you need to change it from device default to custom, and then you set it to 1920 by 1080, which is the actual normal full resolution for this particular webcam. So that's high definition resolution. Okay, you see the shot is wider now. So can finally press OK, and it has, like before, it's brought it in at full size, so it's filling the entire screen. But as you know, you can now you can move it around, you can shrink it down if I grab that handle properly, like that, and you can position it anywhere you want. And remember, if you hold down the Alt key, then you can crop the image. So take out that edge like that and bring that in there. And we've got a smaller talking head. And it's fairly easy to see now how we can build something like the heading corner view that I showed you at the start of the video. So if you'll just bear with me a minute. Need to remember to turn off the padlocks before I do this operation. So shove that up there. If you do want to squeeze an image horizontally but not vertically, by the way, or the other way around, you've got to do Shift on the keyboard while you're doing it. So pull that in like that, and that down like that. Okay. Then just get rid of that transparency from the, sorry, I went into the wrong thing there. This is, so we got a nice big window for our B. Remember, I've cropped that in quite a bit, so I can take that out like that. Okay. And bring that out to match, and there's me in the corner. If you can be bothered, you can learn how to actually point at things on the panel, but it's surprisingly counterintuitive and infuriating. I don't recommend it. So it's easy enough to see that over on that side, you could have, for instance, some lecture slides or any kind of visual aid that you want, be it still images or videos or text or whatever. Now, I've got some good news for anybody who is hoping to use a stock of existing slides, because they are probably in 4:3 aspect ratio. So 4 across the top by 3 down the side. The standard aspect ratio for most videos these days, in things like YouTube, is actually 16 across by 9 down. So it's quite a bit wider. But if you do the maths, you will find that that gives you a rather convenient rectangle down the side, dimensions 4 across by 9 down, in which you can put your own lovely talking face and anything else that you want to leave on the screen permanently. So here's one I prepared earlier. One thing we could do, not the most convenient approach, I'll show you my preferred option later, but just to show you the principle, we could make each PowerPoint slide into an image, bring them in as images. I've skipped all that in the video because you know this stuff, but the result looks something like this. I would have to shrink myself down a bit. Whoa. That just goes to show what I said. Anything you're not working on, keep it locked down, otherwise you get stuff like that happening. So I shall shrink myself like so. And you might want your course name or whatever up at the top in this bar. So let me pop that in here. Obviously, you don't have to call your course Splendid Course About Bees, although it is better if you do. Now, a lot of users seem quite happy just leaving their faces down in the bottom corner there. I find that looks a bit untidy, so I'm going to pop in a frame. This frame, this is a PNG file. They can handle transparency, so I basically cut a hole out of the middle of it. Again, just stretch it to fit using the Shift key, like so, there and there. And there you have it. So all of this, as I said at the beginning, is one scene. It's the My Head in the Corner scene, and it's good practice to name these things suitably. So I'll do that. Now we are going to add a second scene, which will be the main view of just my webcam. You can do that like this. A really convenient feature is that you can duplicate your scenes. So it's probably the easiest way of doing it for current purposes. So I press duplicate and webcam main view. Okay, so we can switch between the two scenes. Much good may that do us at the moment because they are duplicates. But let me adapt this one by, I'm going to take out all of these bits and pieces here. Yep, let's lose the B, lose the slide, lose that, and lose the frame. Yep. I'll keep that in the background just in case we ever want it for any purpose. But what I'm now going to do is lock that down and expand the webcam view, remembering that it's cropped. So I've got to hold down the Alt and pull it out to its full extent. And hopefully this will still fit perfectly into the dimensions of the main view. So we've got the two scenes we wanted. Thinking about it, main view should probably be at the top, and we can switch between them. Now you'll notice that it's fading quickly from the one to the other. That's controlled by this scene transitions menu over here. I don't think this is a default. I think I must have left this on from some previous work. You can just go for a straight cut instead of a fade like that if you prefer. And there is nothing to stop you controlling all of this the way I'm doing it here, just with your mouse switching between different views. But what you'll probably want to do is be able to control it quickly and easily with single key presses. And that's where you have to go into the settings menu, which we haven't used before, because that's where you will find all of the settings for what are known as hotkeys. This is OBS's expression for keyboard shortcuts. These are all general ones to do with overall operation of OBS. And then you've got, you can actually get really, really fine control over all manner of things. So you can switch on or switch off any individual element within any of the scenes. You can make them visible or invisible at will. If we had any videos in here, you would be able to assign keys to start or stop those videos. But let me show you how to do it to switch scenes. So you can see each of these has a switch to scene space. Now, that is to allow you to put in your chosen hotkey. So I'm going to assign the Z key to make that view appear. And that's a simple case of just clicking into the relevant little space there and pressing the key that you want to use. So I've put Z there, and I'm going to put X next to Z on the keyboard to trigger the main view. And I press apply and OK. And then suddenly, every time I press Z, I get that view. Every time I press X, I get that view. And so you can, just as you're going along, if your mind is on other things, provided your fingers are on the Z and X keys, you can just switch around like that to your heart's content. So when you want to point something out, you can do that. And when you're not talking about anything on the screen, you want people to be looking at your face perhaps, or when you're holding something up to discuss it, you can do that. Nice and simple. That's probably enough for one video. In the next video, I'll show you a way of using this setup to show slides or bring in any other materials you want on screen quickly and conveniently using an OBS function called display capture. I'll also explain how to record these sessions, and I'll show you a particularly powerful feature which means you can send any of your OBS scenes directly to a video call or anything else that would normally use your webcam. The link to the next video will be in the description along with various support links. So I'll see you there.